I will say this straight. There is a war at the moment, and you might say there's a war in Ukraine, but there's a war in Ireland at the moment by the political establishment, by the media, and by some people, and particularly NGOs, to get Ireland involved no matter what happens in the world, to get Ireland involved in NATO, to get Ireland involved in military conflicts. And the first thing we'll say is it's the foundation of the state. Ireland has never got involved in any war. The Second World War, we were able to stay out of it. And obviously, I'm sure we were grateful because half of us wouldn't be here today. Be totally honest with you. We would have been bombed to oblivion by the Luftwaffe. That's the same what happened in London. We would have been bombed to oblivion. Half our people would have went over to die in Europe. Half our fathers would be dead, our grandfathers. Basically, hundreds of thousands and thousands of Irish people would be lying in their graves, and half of us wouldn't exist because our parents would be dead, our grandparents would have died, and so forth and so on. And again, that's what war is all about. People glorifying and think, oh, it's great, Ireland joined NATO and we'd be all hockey-dory and there wouldn't be any Irish soldier lost or anything. And you have to think about this, that you get your head out of your ass. In other words, that's what I say to you first. But this is what I say to you now. And I say to people, to tell the local politicians, tell the local TDs, tell the local councillors, that you don't want to see Ireland getting involved in anything. Ireland's neutrality, again, it might be people might say neutrality is out of date, but it's our best policy. Because again, it is our best policy not getting involved. And again, in this country, we seem to have such a bias. We should just not be taking any side. We should just be We should be just in the go talk to both sides of the war that's happening in the world. We should be We should be in the middle. In other words, we should be in the middle. Obviously supplying, obviously humanitarian aid, food and things like that. That's obviously humanitarian aid. But obviously, as I keep saying, people keep bringing this argument up about sending weapons and things like that. That's obviously going above and beyond neutral. That's obviously going out of neutrality. But this is the next thing. Simon Coveney came out today, and the basically Tom will get this is going to be the big thing, as we always knew, and we'll call conspiracy theories and things like that. There will probably talk about now the European Union, about a European army, and obviously there won't be a question about Ireland to be the first one in, and Ireland be the first one sending troops to die en masse. Because we're the fodder, really. We're just the fodder. We're nothing to compare to the bigger countries in Europe. Just using us for economic growth and taking this money. Basically, we're just here wet free in this country. They just come in here wet free and they can take whatever they want and not said to them. But again, this is the thing we need to say, because again, it's up to Irish people to say no. And I've always been very firm on this, that Ireland shouldn't get involved in anything. If we join NATO in the morning, as I said before, we have to spend a huge amount to give to NATO a year. And obviously, we have to cut back on either health, housing. We have to cut back on other things, and obviously the population will suffer. Everybody will suffer, no matter what they cut back on. If in crime, perfection or things, less guards on the street or whatever, there will be totally anarchy. And either to cut back on different things, essential infrastructure and things like that. And people, and I'm sure you would agree, it's all right saying, no, let's go and die for another country. But at the end of the day, we have to be reasonable. What's Ireland going to contribute to a war? Let's be fair, we have 5 million people. That's all we have. We have very, very little to any kind of military, to any kind of offensive military, compared to any other country. We're an island nation with very, very little to defend ourselves, let alone defend any other country. We have to keep that in mind. We're not some big global superpower. Some people think we're the biggest global superpower that could be in the world, that we have hundreds of millions of arms just lying in the country somewhere. That's not the case. We have to be realistic here. But I'm saying to you straight, no to European army. If again, Simon Coveney said to have a European defence strategy, which must mean European army, because let's be fair, they always wanted to bring it in. Now they have it on the golden plate, where they can bring it in if they wanted to, being like Russia's threatening us and things like that. But again, that's obviously putting Irish neutrality in the bin. Completely just throwing Irish neutrality in the bin, being involved in a military alliance with any other country. And obviously European Union, obviously a military alliance, obviously infringes, the word is not even infringe, obviously throws it literally in the bin, Irish neutrality. And obviously we'd be the cannon fodder, because obviously the small countries be the cannon fodder, the big countries won't do much. But as I said before, modern warfare nowadays has changed. And again, it's frightening to see people can basically blow up this country from the other side of the planet. They don't even have to bring a plane over here. They can launch missiles from the other side of the planet, which would probably blow up half. Take, for example, Navan. If a missile landed in Navan, or even Cavan, God forbid, it'd kill everybody in Cavan. That's the range of some of the missiles. It contained the ballistic missiles and things like that could kill 10,000 people with one strike. And that'd be huge. A lot of the country in bits. If we lost 10,000 people within a week. Think about 2 or 3 missiles. hit Dublin, hit Cork, hit Galway, big population centres, killing hundreds of thousands of people. Again, this is the modern warfare. And there's nothing that Ireland could do to stop the missiles. We have no anti-missiles. And this is the thing. So I say to people who want to join NATO, things like that, because there's some people that's up in arms, and the media seem to be up in arms about it, because again, war is a good economic boom for certain people. But not for you or me. We'll lose our lives. Hundreds of billions of people be homeless. And and again, this country is suffering too much at the moment. God knows if we get involved in the military confrontation or things like that. God knows the suffering will be immense. And we have to think about that. Think about the situation that we're in at the moment. Think about how bad it could get if half the country was bombed in the morning. And there was really nothing working. Like, the country's not working at the moment. But imagine or even if, God forbid, if we had to rebuild the country after the war or whatever, if a war ever does come. But again, this is the thing. No to European army. Simple as that. No to European army. Irish neutrality, again, as people say, it could be out of date. But it's our best defense. It's really our best defence. We have nothing to offer for any other country in terms of defence. Ireland's best position is on the sideline, in the middle. Obviously, as I always said from the start, obviously talking and obviously negotiating and trying to get peace. Obviously talking about peace. Obviously Ireland has a role to play, as long peacekeeping service of the Irish Army, nearly 70 years of peacekeeping. In many countries, peacekeeping, keeping the peace in war-torn countries. So Ireland has a role to play in that sense, in obviously denouncing war, and obviously calling for peace, calling for cooperation, calling for communications. But again, getting involved in anything, because again, they seem hellbound, this government, to bring the country into a war, whatever kind of thing it is. They seem hellbound. They seem pretty hellbound to the media establishment, particularly too. So I do say to people to think long and hard, and to say to the TDs that they don't want, because obviously they couldn't just join the WIF, a European army. Obviously they couldn't just join the WIF. Obviously probably had to be voted in through the Houses of the Democrats, because obviously we need to expend a lot more in military spending. And obviously we wouldn't army government. So there won't be any Irish high command or anything. There'll be only one, probably God knows who, in charge of the whole military structure of the European Union. And that would be scary. But yeah, that's all I say. Thank you.